The Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jags. Jags coming off of a historic collapse, one of the worst in franchise history. I think the worst in franchise history when it comes to fourth quarter comebacks and leads blown in that last quarter of the game. So you know that they're looking to get revenge. The Chargers looking to keep things rolling, right? Even with the struggles along the offensive line, they are still a team that has played well. Justin Herbert obviously has played incredibly well, and their 7-3 record I think speaks to that with them winning three in a row here. So you want to talk about the Chargers? Or you want to talk about the Jags?
I'm going to go with the Jaguars defense, and I think we're enough weeks into this that we have significant concern about this secondary and their inability to cover anyone over the last few weeks. This looks a lot more like last year's unit than it did the first 5 weeks of the year. The first 5 weeks, they led the NFL, led the nation. I'm used to college. They led the NFL.
That's the college lingo coming out for
I know.
you.
I know. I had the 10 college previews
technically,
yesterday.
you are still correct.
Yeah,
well,
true.
I mean, it's not like it's incorrect. We never use that. We always say leads the league, leads the NFL. You can still say leads the nation, and you're correct there.
Yeah, I mean that is true. So either way you want to go about it, they're leading something. They're leading everybody. We'll just go with everybody. They were leading everybody the first 5 weeks in coverage grade and with 10 interceptions. The last 5 weeks, 29th in coverage grade and only 2 interceptions. And I don't know if this is the reason. And obviously Travis Hunter getting hurt and any contributions he would make on defense would play into this, but that's also the cutoff of, when they beat Kansas City, but then a couple days later they traded Tyson Campbell to Cleveland for Greg Newsome. And Newsome has not played particularly well in Jacksonville. And I believe Tyson Campbell has an 80 coverage grade right now for the Browns. Maybe getting to a better fit there, and Jim Schwartz's defense has helped him. But this Jags team has not been able to cover over the last 5 weeks. Again, this looks a lot more like last year's unit. Jordan Lewis got hurt, but Jerrion Jones looks pretty good in the slot. That's his natural position. It's, to me, more on the outside with Greg Newsome and with Monteric Brown really struggling out there at corner. You wonder if maybe early returns on that trade, they're regretting it a little bit. They were hoping to get Newsome to a new environment and have him play well. Hasn't been the case so far, but this team's got to get better in coverage, because even with the Chargers' offensive line issues, Justin Herbert's still playing really well, and he's got a lot of weapons he can hurt you with.
Yeah, no, it's true. They definitely have to play a lot better coverage than they have over the last couple of weeks. I think they've just got to run the ball on the offensive side of the ball. I think there's a ton of conversation about Trevor Lawrence. Is he the guy? Can you rely on him in clutch situations? Can he lead the offense the way that he needs to? The answer is both yes and no. I think that's the truth of it. And where we are currently with Trevor Lawrence, not that he can't play better, but where we are currently with the Jags offense, you can't have a game where it's all on him. And when you look at how the Jags have run the ball this season, Dalton, it's as simple as this. The 4 lowest team rushing grade games that they have this season, 4 losses. The 5 highest, 5 wins. When they run the ball well, when they run the ball efficiently, they win the game because they are really, really tough to stop when they are balanced. And then obviously the defensive side of the ball has to hold up their end of the bargain as well. But they have to run the ball, plain and simple. From an EPA per rush perspective, an overall PFF grade perspective, obviously those things are sort of baked into the performance that you have there. Even on the games where, okay, maybe Travis Etienne doesn't have a ton of yards, is he efficient? Are they able to run the ball on 3rd and 2 and pick up those 3 yards on the ground, get a first down? Those are the things that I'm talking about. You don't have to rush for 120 yards every single week. You don't have to have a yards per carry average of 9.5. You just have to be really consistent and effective when you hand the ball off. The games that they are, they win. The games that they aren't, they lose. Because when you put too much on Trevor Lawrence's plate right now, he has not been able to overcome a lack of a run game like that. He just is not at that point. You could say everything that you want about, hey, they don't have Travis Hunter, they don't have Brian Thomas Jr., all that. And I'm not saying that those aren't valid things to bring up. This is just the fact of the matter is when they don't run the ball, they don't win, they don't succeed. Now the Chargers, they're 12th in run defense grade as a team this season, but they're 18th in EPA per rush allowed. So this is a game where Jacksonville could bounce back here and we could get a much more consistent and efficient running game, especially at home. I think the Jags really need this one. I think they're going to get Liam Cohen's best, and I'm going to take the Jags to win 27-24 here.
Tough game to pick because it is a long trip for the Chargers here. And I think the one issue, I think you look at Jacksonville's offense, and to me, I think they have a lot of the same issues we talked about earlier with Carolina. They can run the football, the underneath passing game works, but Trevor Lawrence has had a hard time getting vertical, and his accuracy vertically downfield hasn't been great. He's only completed 45% of his passes, targeted 10 or more air yards down the field, and this Charger defense is not going to make that any easier on you. So it's going to have to be a conservative game plan when it comes to the Jags. They're going to have to run the football well because you do not want to throw into the teeth of this Charger defense in this secondary that's so good at preventing those explosives. And I think Justin Herbert really does, as long as he's got enough pass protection in this game, which is going to be a question every single week. And of course, this week against Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker and those guys up front, as long as he's protected enough this week, I think he's going to have opportunities to win downfield with all those receivers he has. I think Ladd McConkey really getting hot last week against Pittsburgh helps him out a lot. I'm going to take the Chargers. Going to be a defensive battle, but I think Herbert makes enough plays again, 20-17.